One of the cool things about the Therevox ET-5 is the fact that it has reverb, and not only does it have reverb, but it has a spring reverb. So within this unit, there is an actual spring reverb, which is pretty cool. Then not only do you know that you have pure analog sound, and it continues to be analog, but also the cool notion that the sound's going through a spring, which, I don't know, that somehow makes things cool to me. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Anyway, no, it's undoubtedly not just me. Everybody loves a good spring reverb. And this is a good spring reverb. And I've heard some bad spring reverbs in certain sense I'm not going to mention. But yes, this is awesome. So let's have a listen. Let me turn up the reverb a quarter of the way. And about halfway. Three-quarters of the way. And all the way up. Let's turn down the output a little bit. Not too much. If you want to be able to control the reverb without having to stop and reach up and touch the knob in the midst of your playing, which is useful, you could do a thing like take the hold 2 out and put it into the reverb. Set the hold 2 to something in the middle. Actually, set the reverb to something in the middle. Okay, now we have no reverb, even though the reverb's on, but now the reverb is being controlled by the hold. So if we can, you could actually be playing and turn up the hold and the reverb would come. Which is extremely useful. And you know, you could do a number of things like that. You could do, we haven't talked about press yet, but you could use the press to activate the reverb, or, you know, even the keys to activate the reverb. Or you could have the ring. Let's see. Let's put the ring onto the reverb. So what should happen is on the low notes, you get less reverb. Let's see if we turn it all the way up, what will happen. The ring doesn't seem to get a lot out of the reverb. Gotta have some reverb on. Yeah, you'll get more reverb with the ring on if the reverb is at blend. You don't get zero reverb down below, but you get something. But yes, you can definitely use, well, like if you had an expression pedal plugged in, you could use the expression pedal to control the reverb like we have been doing. So the reverb can be actually really interesting and expressive in regard to playing. Let's see what happens when we do this. So if you're playing oscillator 1, but we also have the key 2 controlling reverb. So when you play key 2, so as you move back and forth between oscillators, one of them has reverb and one does not. So yeah, that's another cool patch trick you can pull with patching and the reverb. Let us also talk about the gain return. Now what the gain return is, I think initially it is when you have an effects loop going into the system where you're using the send to go to an external effects unit, and the return is coming back from that unit with an effect before the filter and reverb. This knob, the gain return knob, controls the degree to which that effect is entered into the sound chain. However, if there's nothing plugged in there, you have a gain circuit, which is, I think in the manual it said something like patterned after tube gain. I don't know, I don't think there's a tube in here, so it must be something that simulates what happens, the saturation that happens in a tube. In any case, if you have, for example, let's put it on sine wave. So you have 2 sine waves. Let's turn off the reverb. If we start to add this gain, it's going to naturally saturate and you'll get a more complex waveform and louder. So if we turn it way up, you can even get kind of a distortion. And you can hear as I'm pressing the key harder and harder, you're getting more and more distortion, which is kind of cool. So if we were to use, a more complex waveform like a sawtooth and a square, you get a much richer sound than just the basic waveform, because now you've added basically distortion, saturation. And that becomes cooler when you're trying to use the filter because you have more stuff to filter. So yeah, that's a cool thing, and I overuse it when I'm playing this thing. I always have that thing all the way jacked up so I can get kind of that rich, saturated sound. But you have that capability when you don't have anything plugged into the effects loop. So that is the reverb and basically the gain function present on the Therevox ET-5. Okay, one of the cool things about the Therevox is that it is an analog instrument, fully analog. So like you're going to deal with analog oscillators, which you should be happy about. But sometimes when it comes to tuning, it's kind of a challenge. As you may know from a lot of videos that I've made, I don't even tune them. I just let it be where it's at and make it in tune with itself. So that is certainly a thing you can do. But let's say you want to play the Therevox along with something that's in tune, you're going to have to find a tuner and tune it, and it's a challenge. Except for you don't have to, because there is this really cool function that exists where it can be effectively tuned. And let me show you how that works. It's so simple. Okay, first of all, if you'll notice right here, on this particular A, there's a little tuning fork signal. So if you take the ring and you hover the ring over that tuning fork signal, you're going to see some LEDs come on. And when the LEDs come on, that's your urging to start using the tuning knob to tune the first and second oscillator. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like, because I didn't know about this function. And I was just playing this instrument early on, and I saw these lights going. I'm like, why are there lights in the keyboard? What's happening? But it's a really cool tuning function. So let's get it over there. I'm just hovering here. And then after 3 seconds, you'll see lights come on. There's a light. So you want to turn it until you get the green. Okay, that's in tune. And then it goes off, and then it'll give you a red. And we're tuning the second oscillator, and we find a green. And then that's it. That's all there is to it. Now, both oscillators are perfectly in tune, which is really cool. Of course, you can see me moving my fingers back and forth. That means I am playing both oscillators back and forth. So if we change the waveform on one of them, you can hear what I'm doing. So they're perfectly in tune, and that is a really beneficial function to have on this particular analog instrument that in no way interferes with its beautiful analog sound, but does help you get it to a point where you can just tune it and go.